And we're live.
On time.
Matthew Marister, how's Ohio?
It's still here. We're still going. We got back on Nevada's reciprocity list. They kicked us off for a while, but we're back.
Apparently, all you have to do to get kicked off of Nevada's list is not answer the phone when they call.
Right. Yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea what happened with all that, but
If
I
if
guess they
if
worked it
the
out.
internet forums are to be believed, Nevada just calls up each state a couple times here, like, "Hey, you guys still meet these criteria?" And if you just fail to answer the phone or call them back, then you're off.
Oh, yeah. Maybe they didn't account for time difference or something. I don't know.
We keep calling them at 5 p.m. Pacific. They just don't answer. Welcome, Wes. Thanks for being here. Today, we're going to have a great conversation. We're going to talk about quick access safes. It's my experience that a lot of gun owners end up buying safes that probably really are not awesome. That really don't set them up for success. And I think a lot of that comes down to just not knowing what to look for. And safes can be expensive like a lot of other things. And so unless you know what to look for, you're probably going to be inclined towards something that's low cost. And that might also lead you to get something that's really not going to suit you well. So we're going to kind of talk through some of those things today. It should be a fun conversation. Yeah. Before we get started, for those of you who are live with us here on Facebook and YouTube, give us a shout out. Let us know where you're tuning in from, what state. Something like, "Hi, this is Jacob from Colorado," or "This is Matthew from Ohio," or something like that. Memphis, welcome. Okay. We are coming up on the Independence Day holiday, and yeah, hot dogs, fireworks. I don't know what to say about that other than, happy birthday, America. We're going to talk more about that in a minute, I guess. Hello, Sean from North Carolina, Wes from Kansas, Rodney is here from Indiana, Bobby is here, Casey from Louisiana, Scott from Michigan, Ted from Ohio. Excellent. We're getting the country covered a little bit here. Excellent. All right. Well, with that, guys, I think we're going to get started. We will be doing our best to monitor live comments as we record today in today's show. We excuse Riley Bowman for not being here. He's on vacation. All right, Matthew, ready to go?
I'm ready.
How do I sound? My audio okay?
I think you sound terrific.
Okay, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. This is the Concealed Carry Podcast, Season 2, Episode 17. Welcome to the Concealed Carry Podcast, part of the ConcealedCarry.com network, brought to you by Access Sites. Today is Wednesday, June 30th, 2021, and I am your substitute host, Jacob Paulson, and I am also joined today by co-host Matthew Marister.
Greetings, sir.
Yes, indeed. It's an exciting week because, of course, it's a holiday weekend coming up with the Independence Day holiday, and tomorrow is what I'm calling Constitutional Carry Day. Because like 3 or 4 new state constitutional carry laws go into effect tomorrow.
That's huge.
It's kind of a big deal. So I'm sure people have been following that conversation in the past as we've made announcements on those specific states. That is certainly not our topic today, but all the same, by the time this gets published, we will have constitutional carry in like 22 states or something like that. So pretty wild. Today's topic is quick access safes. Design, layout, criteria, what you might look for when you're purchasing or shopping for a good solid safe for emergency access to your handgun. But before we get to our topic, we do have 2 sponsor messages for today. First is gunfighter oil. Matthew, have you had a chance to use gunfighter oil yet?
I have not, but I've seen a lot on social media about it.
Yeah. So I'm one of those guys who thinks that probably a lot of different products out there relative to cleaning products are good. And you probably are okay using a good product, but if you want an excellent product, I think gunfighter oil is in that category. Gunfighter oil is kind of new to me, new to our company, frankly, but we've had really good success with it so far. And to really just make the long story short, gunfighter oil, the beauty of this product is it's just 100% synthetic. Like when you go to get an oil change for your car, they're always giving you the synthetic blend or, do you want the not synthetic? But this gunfighter oil is just fully synthetic. It has no odor. Has no color. It's just it's organic. You could swallow it, and then you might you're not going to get you're not going to die, but you probably shouldn't drink it. Like it'd be pretty foolish and not good. It's expensive. Anyway, don't do that. But the good news is that we do have free samples of gunfighter oil available at concealedcarry.com. So you can find those at concealedcarry.com/GF sample. So go check it out and get your free sample of gunfighter oil today. You do have to pay shipping and handling, but it's very reasonable and not ridiculous and outrageous. And also today, our episode is brought to you by the 2021 annual Happy Birthday America Sale. So the Happy Birthday America Sale is something we've been doing here at concealedcarry.com for many moons now, I think since 2017, if I'm not mistaken. And this is a member-only sale. The only way to get access to these deals is to be a member of Guardian Nation. For those of you who are members, this is your weekend, man. Happy Birthday America Sale. Look forward to that. Some of you may be listening to this episode after that sale has already aired, but know that it's an annual event. We do it every year, as well as the Black Friday sale that we do every year as well. So members of Guardian Nation save big on Independence Day and on Black Friday here at concealedcarry.com. You can learn more about the sale items and the dates and all the other exciting news at concealedcarry.com/HBA. And that's like, we just finished that page like 30 minutes ago. So anyway, check it out. Good times. All right. Mark's live here on Facebook, and he says best sell of the year. So love that. Awesome stuff. So with that, Matthew, we can go ahead and get into the good stuff here. So how many handgun safes have you been through? I mean, just can you even attempt to count how many of these things you've bought over the years?
Yeah, it's funny because like I have some that like I've used that, they don't work anymore, or I've given them to friends, or I put them in different areas and like taken one to work or something like that, where I used to have like a place and then they disappear. Not with guns in them, but like so quite a few. I probably still have 4 or 5 here in the house.
Yeah. I have at least 4 or 5 that are actively in use, and many more that have been retired or sitting around not getting used right now. And I think what I see is, and my own experience, like when I first became a gun owner, I did not grow up around guns. There were no gun safes or guns in my house growing up. So when I became an adult and decided to buy a handgun, I knew I probably should get a safe for that. And when you go shopping for gun safes, the things you're most drawn to out of the gate without any training or education are going to be the lowest cost items. Mm-hmm. And so my first little safe was this little tiny like clamshell thing that was probably like $20 or $30 and had like little dial pad combination thing going on. And maybe a key one. I remember buying a safe that was like mounted into the wall joists of my house many moons ago, like 20 years ago. And it had a key lock on it, and I felt super cool. Put a picture frame over it, felt like James Bond. But those may not be the most effective options out there. So today we're going to kind of talk through what you might want to look for. And we're kind of basing this off of an article that's been published on our website about a month and a half ago, and kind of lays all this stuff out along with some pictures. So we'll include that link in the show notes if anyone wants to go reference it. But let's get kicked off. I think this is where I'm going to start, Matthew, and then I'm going to throw it your way. But I just want to be clear that we're talking about a very specific type of safe here. We're talking about a quick access safe, which is a safe that you stage a gun in that you want to be able to access quickly in an emergency. So we're not necessarily talking about a TSA safe that might be good for luggage, though maybe some of these would also be good for that purpose. We're not talking about what I would call a long-term storage system, a safe where I'm putting guns in that I have no intention to access in an emergency. I need a place to store them long-term, right? My criteria in that safe is going to be very different than a quick access safe that I'm trying to access quickly. So I want to make sure we're clear on that's our point of discussion today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's good to preface it, because a lot of times, I know you did an article a long time ago, or like a comparison between how quickly you can access different safes, and people immediately when you say gun safe, they think of this big vault, and they're like, well, if I have it in a safe, what good is it? I'll never get to it. And they're thinking of like this dial, combination safe that you mess up the combination 4 times before you can open it. So those probably aren't good for your quick access safe. But what we're talking about like Jacob said, is these safes that you can have quick access, put a firearm maybe in different parts of your home so you can access the gun quickly, but it's secure from, you know, your child or somebody just stumbling across it in a sock drawer or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm uniquely qualified. Well, I wouldn't say I'm uniquely qualified. I have a unique experience with these safes because to your point, Matthew, and this was many years ago, maybe 2017 or 2018, I did this test. It took me hours where I laid in bed and used the LASR software, and I'd wait for a beep from the software. And I just did like a random countdown, and get the beep, and I'd jump out of the bed, retrieve a gun from a safe on my nightstand, a SIRT pistol, and then put a shot on a target on the door of my bedroom. And using LASR, I was able to measure the time between the beep and the shot impact. And the idea of this was not to see how fast can I access a gun in the middle of the night. It was to compare the relative time difference between different types of safes. And so I have a pretty good sense for what are the things that impact how quickly a safe opens when we're talking about safes that are designed to be opened quickly. And in that particular instance, I was also trying to compare it with not having a safe at all, the gun just sitting on the nightstand or in a drawer, different things like that. But it also gave me a unique perspective on the different styles of safes and buttons and keys and all sorts of things. So anyway, yeah, good times. So Matthew, let's kick this off with the criteria. We identified 7 criteria, things that we deem important here. What are those?
Yeah, so I'll mention. Yeah, you want me to go through them all, or just mention the first one? And
whatever you want to do, bro.
All right. Well, I'll list them out, and then we can kind of start digging in. So just so you guys kind of know where we're going. Jacob's identified 7 criteria in this article. Well, number 1 is a locking mechanism that is fast to open. Number 2, a locking mechanism that does not require fine motor skills. A locking mechanism that is manipulated easily in the dark. A style that opens on its own and quickly. A safe that is small enough to fit in a place where I feel the need to stage a gun. Number 6, a safe that is durable enough to deter access. And finally, a safe that can fasten to the staging location to prevent theft.
Yeah, all of those are important. For example, a key lock can be really pretty fast to open, right? If I just pick up a key and stick it in the lock and turn it, that's pretty fast to open. But it does require fine motor skill, and it probably requires a certain amount of light so I can see the key and the keyhole, right? So that's when you start stacking all these criteria on top of each other, you start saying, oh, well, okay, well this does this, but it doesn't do that. Now, also, I think an important part of this criteria is understanding that it also means that there's some situation dependent things. For example, the ideal gun safe to sit on my nightstand may not be the ideal quick access safe to go in my car. Even though some of the criteria is the same, like we want it to be fast to open, all those kinds of things, but because of the location, how I'm going to be able to secure it, or where I need it to be staged and stored in order to access it, those things change. Some of the things I'm looking for. So we got to have some of those 7 criteria are kind of meant to give you some contextual dependencies, I guess. I don't know if that sounds like I was trying to say something smart when I'm not smart. Like they're contextually relevant, I guess. We're trying to say, well, for your given specific circumstance where you put in the safe, the answers to this question might be different.
Sure. Yeah, and so you mentioned locking mechanisms. There's a few that you mentioned in the article. We talk about digital buttons. Key locks, you just mentioned that one, a combination lock, which I mentioned earlier, and biometric locks, which I think one of the Ted talked about or asked if we were going to talk about biometric locks.
Yeah. So, let's get into. So it's time to get in the nitty gritty. So here we go. The locking mechanism system, right? Buttons and keys and all this stuff we're about to talk about. It has this direct impact on 3 of our criteria. We said that the safe needs to be fast to open, it needs to not require fine motor skill, and it needs to be easily manipulated in the dark. So those 3 criteria are all related to the locking mechanism. So I'm actually not going to go through this in the order that you gave, Matthew. I'm going to actually kind of save the best for last.
Sure.
And we're going to start with key locks. So I mentioned key locks a moment ago. Key locks are a terrible idea. They're just an absolute disaster. First, you have to retrieve the key. Then you have to attempt to insert it into a tiny hole. You could miss the keyhole. You could insert the key upside down, or I mean, worst case scenario, in your attempt to put a key in a lock, you break the key off, and then you're toast, right? Like there's no world where you're getting the broken key out of the lock, and then finding a spare key. Like it's just a horrible idea. So out of the gate, I got to just say, no keys. Do not use a quick access safe with a key lock.
Yeah, and to your point earlier, a key lock might work on a safe like a TSA safe, or
Sure.
maybe even something that you're gonna store something in your car. You have to go in a non-permissive area, so you lock something firearm in a safe, attach it under the seat or something like that. That might be a key safe. Might be okay, right? Because you're not trying to access that thing super quickly. But yeah, those keys, man. I just the other day, maybe 2 weeks ago or something, I had a little key, a vault that the battery went dead. It was beeping forever, telling me to change. And it's just something I keep, like, it's just some ammo, and I don't keep guns in there or anything like that. But it finally died. The battery died, and I thought I had the key for it. I couldn't find it. But I was able to go on YouTube and find out how to like pick that specific lock with a little paper clip. And so, yeah, key locks probably not the best, because you probably lose the key or something.
Yeah, and most safes have a key override, right?
Right.
So if the battery, to your point, right, if the battery dies, if you forget the combination, whatever, like I have no problem with that. I mean, some are better than others relative to their how effective they are as a deterrent and how pickable they are. But certainly, I got no issue with the key override. In fact, I think the key override is an important thing to have a redundancy, ability to access the gun. But if the key is the only or primary means to open the safe, I think that is a disaster for quick access.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So next, I want to talk about combination. So combination gun locks. Like if you guys can picture this, think of your high school locker. Okay, that's what we're talking about. This little like dial pad or dial. I don't know. It's a dial. And it's got numbers, around it with little hash marks, and you turn it. And oftentimes these things are like 3 times past this number clockwise, and then go counterclockwise 2 times past this number, and then clockwise again 1 time past this number, then counterclockwise to this number, and then I mean, when I am calm and the lights are on and I got all the time in the world, that still takes me like 3 or 4 tries. It's just, those things are horrible. It's extreme high level of security. So not appropriate for a quick access safe when the adrenaline's pumping, when the heart is pounding, when you're maybe in a dark or low light situation and you just need this now. Even if you could do it on the first attempt perfectly flawlessly, it's still really, really slow. So there's no world where that's a good idea.
Yeah, no.
All right. Third is the biometric locks. And this is probably the one we get asked about the most these days, Matthew, from students and people, because it's kind of the new tech, new fancy. A lot of companies running ads right now on Facebook and YouTube for these kinds of safes. Oh, check this out. Look how fast this is, kind of thing. And I do think that I would be doing it an injustice if I didn't admit that biometric locks have improved significantly over the last decade or whatever. But it's still not my preference. It's still just not my fave. And I'll give you a couple of reasons why. One would be just the reliability of it. I think it's the obvious one, right? People are concerned with, but will it read my finger every time? Well, some are higher quality than others, but there's still a lot of things that can screw it up. My being too sweaty, or my fingers being too dry, or having blood on them, or I scraped my finger on something 3 nights ago, and right now it's kind of scarred up, and it's not working on my safe right now. Oh, but Jacob, you can program 9 or 20 million different fingers on this. Okay, well, my muscle memory is to use a certain finger, and so now it's like not working, and I don't know why, and I got to remember to try the next finger. And so I just think it's less than awesome. But Matthew, what are your 2 cents? I know that you have a few. The companies have sent you for review. Like, where are you at with the biometric thing?
Yeah, I was on board with you, probably even more hesitant to even like contemplate a biometric safe for a long time. they were very unreliable, like extremely unreliable. I've used the VeriSafe Vault one, and I went in and did kind of a combination from their first original model to their second, and it actually got quicker from their first model a couple of years later. So that's how quickly like the technology is advancing. Like it not only did it unlock the safe mechanism quicker, but I took some water, I put them on my hand, I put some. Now this isn't exactly the same, but I covered my fingers with chalk and kind of simulating, hey, there's dust or dirt or something on my hand, on my fingers, and it worked through the chalk. It worked to a certain point with liquid. At a certain point, it can't. There's too much water, and it can't read it. But it was much better than the first one. It's not. It's not 100%. Sometimes you hit the little keypad just in an angle, and like you said, you scan a bunch of different ways, but it just doesn't quite work, and you got to reposition, and then it works. But it worked like, I mean, 99% of the time it was very quick first shot, but we're trying to eliminate variables, and that could be a variable. I think kind of along the line with biometric safes, you could, a lot of these biometric safes also include like RFID. So, you might have a wristband or a ring or some sort of fob that if it's close to this device, that it unlocks it. So that's it's not biometric, but it's sort of that digital, digital. So I think they're getting better. And, maybe you don't use a biometric safe for your, primary go-to quick access safe. Maybe it's something that, you want quick access, but, it's in an area that maybe is not right next to your bed. Maybe it's in your closet or something, something like that.
Yeah, I'll give you two other just kind of downsides on biometrics that are the less obvious ones. One is the inability to pass the combination to somebody. Right. So I can't just I can pre-program my wife's fingers. I can pre-program anyone's fingers, but I can't be on the phone with my brother and say, hey, bro, yeah, just go to my bedroom. Here's the combination. Go ahead and grab that and have yourself. Can't do it. Another thing is just the cost. Biometric safes are going to be, you're going to pay a premium. You're going to pay a premium fee to get a safe that's biometric. Now, if that's what you want, you think that's awesome and all good. I just want to make sure that we understand that you're choosing that at a premium cost just by the nature of the technology. I'm glad you brought up RFID. So let's talk a little bit more about RFID stuff. For me, RFID is in many ways like a key because it requires having something, right? Just like when you have a key lock, you have to retrieve a key. Now it's better than a key in that I don't have a hole I have to stick it in. No fine motor skill required. I just wave it or swipe it or just be close enough or something. But it still requires having or retrieving something. So I think that's its major failure point. Is that if it's something I have to have, then I got to go grab that. It's a card. What's in my wallet? So I got to grab up my wallet. What if I don't have my wallet with me, or what if my wallet's over there? Oh, it's not. Well, Jacob, no, it's going to be a wristband or a ring. Oh, okay. What if I'm not wearing the wristband in that moment, or the ring in that moment? Those are all our concerns. I'll also tell you that RFID systems, the batteries will die much faster than any of your other electronic systems because it has to. By the nature of how the radio waves and stuff work, it's just going to consume more voltage over time than other digital systems. So that doesn't make any of that necessarily bad. Again, those are all just choices to understand. I think that we're going to talk later about kind of how fast it opens and style and things like that. And that's another consideration. But just specifically talking about the locking mechanism, none of those are my favorite. And so now I get to talk about my favorite. My favorite is just the 4-button keypad, or just basically digital buttons. And I have a specific layout that I think is most important. But when I want buttons that just I push the button, it makes a little beep sound. Preferably, I could mute that. And when I put in a certain combination of those buttons, it opens. Most of the time, you have 4-button combination locks. Not always. Like a lot, especially some of the larger, bigger safes, you'll see with like a phone keypad, 1 through 9, star, pound, and 0. But my preference would be a 4-button keypad. And for me, that is ideal because in the dark, I can find it. It's tactile. I can feel it with my hands. I can get my fingers in the right position. I can put in the combination, and I don't have to retrieve a key. I don't have to worry about it reading my fingerprint. I don't have to. There's no fine motor skill involved. I don't need the lights on. For me, it's kind of the best of all worlds. It's less expensive to biometric, but it's certainly going to be more expensive than a key lock or a combination lock or something like that. So that's my sweet spot.
Yeah, and I think I'm trying to remember. I think it's Gun Vault, and I think they do the best. They have the best layout of their buttons. It has like grooves for 4 fingers.
Mm-hmm.
So at night, you put your hands in there and you kind of know exactly which buttons you're pressing, instead of having, if you can't see the buttons lit up or they're not lit up. If you have just like, buttons randomly placed, 4 buttons or whatnot, you might not know exactly which, if you're pressing button 1 or not. But if you slide 4 fingers in there, index finger is 1, pinky finger is number 4, and the other 2. So it kind of gives you that groove. So I don't know if other companies do that finger groove thing, but
this is something I've researched quite a bit. So the finger groove concept was introduced by Gun Vault, and their patent must have run out because I definitely see some knockoffs out there. I own a Chinese-made knockoff of Gun Vault. Gun Vaults are also made in China, probably. But anyway, so yeah, I think there's definitely some knockoffs that have the finger grooves. But what's definitely true is that we see a lot of other safes now, name brand safes, that may not have the finger grooves, but they still kind of have the same layout of those buttons. And by layout, I just mean that it's such that it's natural for your 4 fingers to go there. Right, they're kind of positioned in the way that would be natural for 4 fingers. You may not have the finger grooves, but at least the buttons are natural. So like SnapSafe, SnapSafe's in my opinion like an upcoming high quality handgun safe manufacturer, and they have a 4-button digital keypad option for many of their handgun safes that I think is comparable in quality to Gun Vault. It lacks the finger grooves, but for me the finger grooves are not a big deal. Like the safe I have right now on my nightstand is a Sports-A-Field, and it's discontinued. I don't like the new Sports-A-Field ones because they do not have tactile buttons. But the old Sports-A-Field lightning safes that we used to sell before they were discontinued, it's same kind of concept. Those 4 tactile buttons, digital buttons laid out the same configuration as your hand would be. And so I love those, and I don't care about the finger grooves as long as the 4 buttons are in the proper layout to feel natural to my hand. In the dark, I can find that. I can put my hand on it and I can get it. I don't find the finger grooves to be a big deal to me, as long as the buttons are laid out properly. Now, contrast that though, like I have like the Gun Vault Speed Vault, or the Stack-On has a side mount safe. And for those of you who can't visualize this, think like a safe that's often mounted like against the side of a nightstand or under a desk on the side wall of the desk. And it's designed, you put in the buttons, you push in the combination, it kind of falls with gravity, like a drawer opens, and that's how you access the gun. These generally have 4 digital keypad button locks as well, but instead of being oriented in a row in the shape of your fingers, they're in a square pattern, 2 by 2, right? That's a whole different deal because your fingers don't naturally line that way. Like I can't put my 4 fingers in a square, right? Like that, it doesn't work. So what ends up happening with that kind of four keypad orientation, like a square, is that you hunt and peck. You're just going to take your pointer finger and you're going to go pop, 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 and it increases the odds of you screwing up. It's not the same, and it requires having lighting pretty much too. You can't really do that in the dark very effectively. So I think that's a 4-button digital keypad safe, but it's significantly less awesome than the 4-button digital keypad safe that aligns those buttons in the natural orientation to your fingers.
Right. Yeah. And, I'll inject this real quick. We're not saying that like other methods are impossible, like the square is impossible. You might have one and be like, well, I I can access it very quickly and things like that. You may be able to access it quickly. We're not saying it's impossible. We're saying we're trying through or especially with your experience going through all these different safes and mine just looking at them in the safes that I've had and used. We're trying to say that certain configurations are easier and provide less, potential for you messing up and hitting a button wrong and having to wait for it to time out and then do it again. It's not to say that you can't do it quickly, that you won't, it's just, we're trying to eliminate any variables that might cause us to enter a wrong combination or maybe take too much time or need to actually see the keypad to even know what buttons you're pushing.
Yep. I mean, one of these like square button ones I just described, I have one right here in this very room I'm sitting in with a gun in it. And so I'm not saying it's horrible. Like that was the best save for this particular instance for which I need to save, but it's definitely not as ideal to open because I got to see those buttons and I got to make sure I don't screw up. I don't miss and slip and hit the wrong one when I'm, trying to peck them with my pointer finger.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Well, I was going to say we have a live question here from Ted that I thought was worth addressing, but I don't want to get ahead of you. If you had
no, that's what I was going to address.
Okay. Yep. So Ted asks, are some of the buttons backlit? That's a common feature that a lot of the nicer safes have, like the gun vaults, the Sportsfield ones, the Stack-Ons. I think basically all three brands that I mentioned, they all have backlit buttons. But the backlit buttons are darn near worthless. And the reason they're darn near worthless is because they don't light up until you push one. So imagine it's dark. You're trying to access your gun. It's, you don't want to throw lights on, for whatever reason. So you're trying to, find this thing and get your fingers on it in the dark. And you're like, oh, but I have backlit buttons. Not right now, you don't. They're dark as could be. Now, the second you push one, poof, they're all going to illuminate and make it easier to see all of them. But then you have to push one to do that. So how does that help you? Because if you push one and you happen to not push the first button you're supposed to push, then you probably got to wait 9 seconds for it to time out and reset for you to be able to go again. Most of them have a 9-second lockout. That's pretty standard in my experience. So the backlit buttons is kind of a worthless feature in my opinion, because they're not permanently backlit. If they were permanently backlit, or if even they glowed in the dark or something, they were luminescent, that would be cool, but that's not the case. They have to conserve batteries. Now, I have seen some that like plug into a wall. They're actually using an AC outlet, and those sometimes are permanently backlit. But anything that's like, I got to push the button in order to get it to light up, I don't see any value in that myself, Matthew. I don't know if you have a different opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, if you don't have to access it quickly, the backlit's good. You press it and you can still access it at night, or in the dark. But probably if you're not accessing it quickly, you can walk over and flip on a light or get some sort of light. So, I think there's probably application to it, but probably not in the context of needing it quickly, unless they're always lit,
Yeah, I will just give a quick pro tip here. Most of these digital keypad safes, if you push a wrong button, if you don't put in the combination correctly, you just have to count to 9, and then they beep, 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 and they reset, and then you go again. Here's a little pro tip. Faster than waiting those 9 seconds is start pushing incorrect buttons as fast as you can. Because if you put an incorrect combination in, I can't remember how many times I got to push, but something like 6. If I put the wrong combination in like 6 times in a row, so I just take button 1 and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it'll reset immediately. So it's faster than waiting the 9-second default to just, if you screw up faster. Like keep putting in random crap until you get the beep, 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 then start over. That'll be faster than sitting there and counting to 9 for the default timeout reset. So anyway, just to ask me how I know kind of thing.
Good tip.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I don't prefer the hunt and peck model. I definitely prefer the 4-digit pad that's aligned to the shape of my fingers as they would standardly be. We talked about illumination, which I think is an important thing. My last thought there, I think, is just that regardless of whatever we're talking about, whether it's a key lock or something we just completely trashed on and said sucks, or whatever thing you have, practice is going to help here. Like I always think, like, and remember, Matthew, you're old enough. Remember when we had to remember phone numbers?
Oh yeah.
Like actually type in phone numbers all the time in order to call people? I remember. I'm old enough too. Just so you don't feel like I was calling you out. And there were phone numbers that you dialed often enough that you couldn't recall the number off the top of your head. But if I put a phone in your hand, you could dial it.
Mm-hmm.
Like your fingers remembered the sequence of buttons automatically because you dialed those numbers often enough. But if I was like, hey, what's the number? You'd like have to stop and think about it. Like, oh, it was, So I'm not saying that we should forget our combinations to our gun safes. I am saying that practicing it often is important. Like it needs to be a subconscious activity. You need to not be thinking about the sequence of buttons you're going to push in to open the safe. Like it needs to be a subconscious action, because you've done it with enough repetition and practice, whatever it is.
Yeah, I agree. And Ted said he's 54 and he remembers rotary dial. I remember it too, man. And there's no memory of that. You miss it on the last one and you got to go all the way back. And yeah, so it took like 15 minutes to dial a phone number, especially if there's a lot of ones and stuff.
I was going to say there was value in having phone numbers with certain sequence of numbers back then. And I am old enough to have used a rotary phone.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's move over to like style. And when I say style, I'm specifically referring to how it opens.
Mm-hmm.
So Matthew, lead us down this one.
Yeah. So let's cover the major types of styles of opening. You have top access or the clamshell, side access with like a spring-loaded door that opens up, or and I'm pretty sure most side access have a spring-loaded door. Maybe some don't, but most of them do. And then side access, like a manual door that you has no spring. You have to physically pull it open, and then the gravity assist, like you mentioned, that kind of mounts. Typically, you see it like on the side of a desk or side of a nightstand or something, that something kind of falls out and opens up by way of gravity.
Yep, nailed it. So let's go through these real quick. So you mentioned first one, the top access clamshell. So think like guys like clamshell, like that should be hopefully super self-explanatory. This is a safe that the top half of it is opening on a hinge, and pretty straightforward. So these I tend to find they're really awesome for certain situations where you need to fit a safe in a certain tight space, like in a drawer or under a seat in a car, or certain things, because they just tend to be skinny enough that you can slide them into a pretty tight space. But they're definitely not awesomest when you're trying to get a gun. This simple thing of having to grab the lid and open it with one hand while I grab the gun with the other hand, in my study that I conducted, slowed down my shot, my beep to first shot, by anywhere from a half a second to a second. That sounds extreme, but there's just something about this idea that I can't put in the combination and grab the gun. I have to put in the combination and then grab it, open it, and then grab the gun. Maybe I should be faster than that, but it definitely slows you down. It's definitely not ideal. That said, like I said, I still use safes like that for certain situations where it's just the best option.
Yeah. And as you were saying that, I was thinking, and I want to say that there is I want to say it's called Gun Box or something. It's kind of a high tech safe, that one of the first biometric safes I saw a while back, and it was like a clamshell design, and it opened with some like
pneumatic almost.
Yeah. But it opened slowly. So there's probably ones clamshell that maybe have some sort of assist, but I don't think that it can spring open, because if you think about it, if that lid springs open too fast, it's probably going to make the safe, tip over, or, get in the way of your hand that's trying to unlock it or whatnot. So I think just the design of it necessitates that either has to open kind of slowly, or you have to manually open it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So not going to be ideal, but it might be the best scenario, best option for certain circumstances, like I described. But yeah, that's a good point. And I did not remember that when I wrote this article, or as we were talking about that, I had forgotten about that gun box thing. I remember it does. You kind of, you unlocked and then just it almost like
but it takes
slowly,
like
yeah,
like 2 seconds, 3 seconds.
like the gate on the topper of my truck is like slowly opens up, kind of thing. Okay, cool. The side access spring loaded door, and this is what we most commonly see with your big dogs, the gun vault guys, the stack on guys. So when we say side access, this safe is more like a square, rectangular, cubic type shape. And when you put in the combination, it's a door on the side of the safe that's opening and it's kind of coming down, right? So it's like a lid that's opening down, like a drawbridge, kind of. I'm trying to create visualizations here. And oftentimes these are spring loaded. So the gravity would do it on its own, right? I mean, in theory, it's falling down, so gravity would help that door come open anyway. But the top players in the game are doing spring assist on that. They're spring loaded. So you put in that combination and boom, I mean, it's flying. It's aggressive. Like it'll bounce a few times, like bop, 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 bop. Like it's really fast. This is probably the ideal, right? If I have a situation where I can use this style of safe, I think this is my favorite.
Yeah, the quick access gun vaults that I use for a handgun that are designed to access it quickly, this is the one I choose to use. I have 2 of them because they just, like you said, that thing opens up and you don't have to worry about, and I'll tell you, I had one on my nightstand and there was something that was kind of like in the way. I forget what it was, but it just kind of like pushed it right out of the way when that door flipped open. It just kind of pushed it out of the way because it does have that spring, pretty heavy duty spring. And I think it's a Sports Field. I can't remember which model, but yeah, it has that flip down door and it's super, super, super quick.
Yeah, they're just fast. Yeah, the original Sports Field handgun safes all had that feature. The new ones do too. I just hate the new ones because the buttons suck. Anyway, yeah, love it. I'll add one other thought. In 2019, Gun Vault kind of re-upped and redesigned their handgun vaults, and their side access safes. They added a new feature that's really cool. I mean, I wish these guys were cheaper. But they add this new feature where not only does that side access door spring open, but then there's like a drawer, like a platform in the safe that comes out. So now I don't even have to reach as deeply into the safe. Like I just put in my combination and boom, door swings down. And as the door is swinging down, the drawer slides out. So it comes out. It doesn't come out all the way, but it'll come out, maybe 3, 4, 5 inches so that it's easier to access the gun that's in there. It's cool. I mean, it's just impressive.
And it's lit, isn't it, inside?
Yeah. So interior lighting is an interesting thing, actually. So I do like, this is not on our criteria list, actually, so it could be added. But interior light is a nice feature. So you can see in there, so you're not accidentally, trying to reach in, you bump the trigger, or maybe like in the safe on my nightstand, I have 3 handguns. It's a humongous thing. But that said, I think an interior light's nice, so you can see what you're grabbing, what you're reaching for. I've not, however, seen any that have like a super bright interior light. So for those who are like trying to picture this in your mind, we're not talking about like a light bulb. We're talking about a very dim, generally red LED light, like very dim. Like if you do this during the daytime, you're like, I thought this thing had interior light. Like you won't even be able to tell. But in the dark, you're like, oh, yep, sure enough, there is an interior light. It illuminates it enough so that in the dark you can see what you're grabbing. So yes, I like that feature as well. I'm with you on that one, Matthew.
Definitely.
There's a good question here from a live viewer. Says, will most of these hold a full-size pistol with a light, like a SIG P320? Yes. So I'm not aware of a handgun safe that won't fit any handgun. Like that's the short answer. Now, whether or not it'll hold 2 handguns or 3, my nightstand, it's designed to hold. It says 2. I usually put 3 in there, but yes, like you're not going to find any notable brand name handgun safe that says single handgun safe, and it won't fit whatever handgun it is you have. Like that's going to be a non-issue. Okay, good stuff. Matthew, side access manual doors.
Yeah, I have one actually. That's the type I was talking about. That I don't use it for firearms. Some odds and ends stuff and things that I don't want other people getting into. But yeah, so this is. I think if you go to like Walmart or most of these, you'll see these stack-on safes. I think stack-on is probably one of the popular manufacturer of these types of safes. So it's just basically a box, keypad, maybe a key override as well, a little knob. So you punch in your key code, you turn this knob, it unlocks, and then there might be a little handle that you pull, and you pull the door open. It doesn't swing open on its own. It doesn't have any sort of thing to assist it. And yeah, so in some of them, the one I have opens to the side, but I've even seen, which I can't imagine this is very intuitive. It showed it mounted on the wall, but the door actually opened upwards. So obviously this is probably not for a good gun safe. It might be something for valuables, maybe that you're not accessing or needing to get in and out of. But yeah, so manual door, side access.
Yeah, it's really not that much different than like the clamshell style, because you got to put in a combination or turn a key or whatever it is, and then you got to grab a door and open it. So less than ideal, less than awesome, for sure. Now let's talk about the gravity assist. I think the gravity assist has a certain cause, I don't know, appeal, allure. Like it just looks cool. Mm-hmm. Like I put in this combination, it just drops like boom, like here's your gun, and I don't know, I guess it just seems like cooler than the rest, but maybe it's not.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's probably nothing wrong with it, but given the 4, I would pick the spring assist every time, because you want that thing. I mean, I don't know, maybe something gets jammed in the in that mechanism that opens up and closes, and it doesn't open quite as quickly, and you end up having to pull it open. Like if we're talking about accessing something quickly, I mean, a spring that forces the door open is always preferable than gravity or anything else.
Yeah, what I found with these gravity assist safes is, first, the speed at which they actually open, at which like the locking mechanism moves, so the safe door drawer can fall open, varies significantly by brand. So, for example, the Speed Vault from Gun Vault, it just is, it's night and day difference faster than the whatever equivalent one from Stack-On, which is funny since Stack-On and Gun Vault are owned by the same company now, by the way. Alpha Guardian is the mother company. They acquired Stack-On in like 2018 or something. But anyway, so certainly know that even though the design and the style would appear to be the same, one is significantly slower, like a second slower than the other. A second shouldn't matter, but probably worth spending a little bit more to get the one that's higher quality. The other issue that I have with these kind of these gravity assist is that they often have the gun in the safe in such a way that you can't really get your hand around it. You can't really grip it properly out of the safe. You're kind of have to like pull it halfway out and then acquire your grip. So that's just another, like little side note to watch out for with some of these. And the gravity assist ones are often like the worst offenders in not holding that gun or putting that gun in a way that you can easily get your hand around it. So that's something to think about as well.
Yep, sure.
All right. Last, we're starting to wrap it up here, guys. Thank you for your patience as we go through this. Hopefully everyone's getting a little bit of value here, but let's talk about durability and vulnerability. So this is all about just how secure is it, Matthew?
Yeah. So Mark actually mentioned earlier on in the comments about checking out a YouTube video, and this guy shows how you could break into many of these commonly owned safes. And that's how I broke into the safe that I lost the key or couldn't find the key for. And yeah, you can break into many of these safes. Some of them maybe are a little bit more difficult than others. Some are extremely difficult, like crazy difficult, but some are really easy, like you would be surprised. But what we're talking about here as far as like vulnerability is that, like, what is the purpose of the safe? Like, if my safe, obviously a big vault that's heavy, that somebody's not going to be able to come in and pick it up. A quick access safe is not designed for the burglar not to be able to take my gun. Sure, I may be able to mount that to the wall or mount it to a desk or something like that, which makes it a little bit more difficult. But given enough time, I mean, I've seen wall safes get cut out of walls, and like, given enough time, somebody's going to take the safe or break into the safe. And so we just want, as far as vulnerability, something that protects the gun from whatever you need. It might be a child. It might just be, TSA has a certain approved locking system that you have to use. So, don't look at your quick access safe as a gun vault that's going to protect your gun in a fire or flood it's not rated for that. It's not that's not what it's made for. It's not what, and so I think we just have to be realistic with the application of what we're using it for.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Super valid thoughts. I mean, when we talk about durability and vulnerability, I think we're talking about first the way the safe is designed to prevent unauthorized access into the safe. Then second, the way the safe is designed to prevent someone from just picking up the safe and hauling it out. Mm-hmm. And when we're talking by definition, the style of safes that we're talking about today in this conversation are not safes that are extremely secure. They're designed to deter quick, fast criminals, children, not people who bring all the tools and all the time to the battle. That's just not what they're designed to do. For that, you need to go get some big, thick, massive vault thing, which is awesome and you should definitely own. But it's a different set of criteria than the set of criteria we're applying to a quick access safe. So I think that's really valid. For people might find this interesting. So in this industry, in the gun safe industry, with these style of safes we're talking about, the industry standard, like testing, like qualification, is actually the California State Department of Justice. California DOJ has a testing program. So go look at the box or the webpage for the gun safe you own or you're thinking about buying, and you'll almost certainly see somewhere on there California DOJ approved. And this is the closest thing we have to an industry standard testing standard relative to security. And this is how the California DOJ does this. They bring the safe in. You have to mail them samples if you're the manufacturer. They give it to the testing crew, and the testing crew does this a lot. So they're not unfamiliar with how to get into gun safes, right? And the testing crew has 2 minutes to get into the safe. And if in 2 minutes they can't get in, you pass. So 2 minutes is not very much time. They might fail to get in there in 2 minutes, but if they'd had 10 minutes, it would not have been a problem at all. And I don't know what they're given in terms of tools. Like, if I'm being honest, I really don't know if they have blow torches available or not. I'm guessing not, because in 2 minutes with a blowtorch, I think I could get into darn near any of these. But I think that the point is the standard is relatively low. Now, that said, would I buy a handgun safe that didn't say it was California DOJ approved? I'd be a little concerned, because I mean, if they can't even get that approval, then it's really questionable at that point. But most of these, the name brands we've mentioned and the kind of the big dogs in this game are all DOJ approved. So some just specific things that you might check for, though: strength or thickness of steel. So the lower the number, the higher the strength, right? So 16 gauge steel is probably the most common thing we see in these quick access safes. The quality ones, I think 16 gauge steel is kind of the standard. I see some out there that are 18 gauge steel. I see some that are 20 and 22 gauge or 24 gauge steel. And that to me would be like, no, I'm not going there. Like, at that point, I could probably elbow my way through that thing. Like, so I think 18 would be my minimum standard, and 16 gauge seems to be kind of the top tier standard for some of the big, more notable brands. I think we ought to look at hinges, where the hinges are and how the hinges are designed. The YouTube channel that our live viewer mentioned earlier, he often takes advantages of holes that are designed for mounting, or that are designed for like little rubber feet to make the safe not slide on surfaces. He'll pop those out, and then he'll go via those holes to access the locking mechanism. So that's another common thing I look at, as I see, are there holes that allow someone to stick a coat hanger in here and get to the locking mechanism or not? So strength of steel, holes and access to the locking mechanism, gaps in the door housing itself, and where the hinges are. Those are just quick things that might be indicative.
Yeah.
I've been talking for a while, Matthew. Sorry.
No. I and to your point, like, and if you require something that, you want to be able to be fireproof or flood proof, waterproof, or basically burglar proof, that they're not going to be able to pick this thing up because it's 4,000 pounds, and if you need that, then, that's what you're going to need to look for, right? Like, but when we're talking about these saves, they're generally, smaller or thinner gauge steel. They're lighter. They're more easily broken into. But look at what you're trying to accomplish by this. Are you trying to just keep your kids, kind of honest, and take away that curiosity of just having a gun on the safe, on the nightstand, or are you looking for something that you need, no doubt, like high level security for whatever you're putting into it?
Yeah, and unfortunately, a high level of security is at odds with quick access.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, we got to keep that in mind. Like,
yep.
You're kind of stuck picking one or the other for a number of reasons. And last, I think I'll kind of comment on here, and then maybe we can start to wrap this up and get final comments from Matthew. But I think we also need to be thinking about the safe's vulnerability relative to it being removed. So even these small, relatively low-cost, quick access safes we're discussing today are designed to be mounted to something or secured in some way that people can't pick it up and haul it out. So they generally come with pre-drilled holes, generally on the base of the safe, that you could, and they generally come with hardware too, little screws. So you could mount that into the drawer if I put it in a drawer, or I could mount it to the desk or the nightstand or whatever piece of furniture, or the studs in the wall or the floor or something, so that I might, strengthen those options.
Right.
The alternative that's kind of generally accepted as a second best option is some sort of security cable. So some of them come with it, though I tend to find that a lot less of them these days are coming with security cables. A lot of the little clamshell ones are still coming with security cables, but the other larger and different style quick access safes generally do not come with a security cable. And the security cable is designed to tether the safe to some object. This is a common way to secure it in the car. So I have a little clamshell safe in my car, and this is how it's secured. Is the security cable kind of goes around the base thingy of the seat. And then the lid of the safe closes on the cable so that it becomes tethered. So figuring that out, and what the best option is for you. Again, that doesn't prevent someone from bringing the right cable cutters and cutting the cable, right, or ripping off the top of my nightstand that this thing is screwed to, or cutting it out of the wall joists that it's just better than nothing at all.
Yeah. I mean, think of it as the cable lock you put around your bicycle. People steal bicycles all the time, right? So it's not there to stop everybody. It's there to deter like the smash and grab dude that's got a center punch, is breaking windows, grabbing stuff, and sees a box there, pulls on it. It's tethered, doesn't want to stick around because there's a lot of people in the parking lot, so they take off. That's what it's for. If somebody wants to cut the cable, if somebody wants to cut something out of your wall, they're going to do it. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, so let me try and summarize some of the thoughts here today. I think that when you're looking for a quick access safe, a safe that you want to be able to access quickly, get into, and do it under stress, maybe in the dark, and get quick access to that gun. Some things we talked about: the locking mechanism. We talked about keys versus biometric versus like turnstile combination locks, different, and we talked about several different versions and styles of digital kind of buttons, and maybe which some of those might be preferable. We talked a little bit about style itself, how it opens, clamshell versus side access. We talked about spring loaded versus not versus gravity. We talked about just the durability of the safe and how you secure the safe itself to wherever it is you've chosen to stage it. So this might feel a little bit nitpicky, guys, but I do think that if you're going to do it right. If you're going to spend the money to get something good. And if we're being honest, I'm just going to throw this out there as a company that sells a decent number of these safes, you probably need to be prepared to spend at least $100 for a quality handgun quick access safe. If it costs less than $100, I would be concerned that you may not have gotten something that meets these criteria. I think those are my parting words. Matthew?
Yeah, no, I can't really add anything other than, to echo what you said about, it's an investment, right? Like, so you mentioned earlier on, that's probably one of the first things people buy with their gun. They get a safe and they're investing in the gun. They're maybe buying a holster and some ammunition all up front. And then they're like, oh man, I don't have enough for a good safe. So I'll just get like, a kind of a scaled down safe. But that's probably something you don't want to skimp on, because you will end up in the long run replacing it. Because you'll find that it doesn't do what you need it to do.
Yep. And you might be glad you have that one too later, right?
Sure.
So today it's like, all I got's $30. You go buy the $30 thing with a key on it, and like better than nothing for sure. Yeah. Awesome. Great. Yeah. But yeah, you're going to end up replacing it. You're going to end up upgrading in the future for something that's significantly better for you and for this kind of a situation. So that's a good thought, Matthew. And I appreciate that you added that. And we have a live viewer who says that, I can definitely get a really high quality one for less than $100 at the Happy Birthday America sale. Yes, you can. So Guardian Nation members, be sure to check out concealedcarry.com/HBA to take advantage of this coming weekend's Happy Birthday America sale. All right. Matthew, do we need to pick a winner?
I actually already have the winner already picked for you.
Oh, sweet. So what are we giving away this week?
This week, we're giving away the Flight 93 9/11 ball cap, commemorative ball cap.
It's a cool ball cap. Yep.
Yeah.
It's got the Twin Towers on it. It's got the Flight 93 on it. Yep.
And next week, we're giving away a individual palm pepper spray.
Cool. So, guys, we're about to declare the winner for this week, but make sure you go to concealedcarry.com/podcast prize, or you just go to podcasts.concealedcarry.com and click on weekly giveaway. And that's a recurring door, is revolving door, I think is how Riley likes to say it. So you have to enter every week for that week's specific giveaway. So this week we've looked at the current entries and we've pulled one at random, and who's getting the ball cap?
This week's winner is Douglas S. Douglas. Yes.
All right, Douglas S., you are the winner. Matthew's going to send you an email so we can get your shipping address, and we will send you out your ball cap. We appreciate everyone who participates here in the podcast live, listening to the recordings, entering the giveaways, and everything else that you do to make yourself and those around you better prepared for defensive encounters. We really appreciate it. So with that, I think we're all done. Thanks, everyone. This is Season 2, Episode 17. We appreciate you listening. Don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to this podcast, and share it with a friend. Tell somebody who you know who recently started carrying about our podcast so they can also become more informed. We appreciate it. Thanks, everyone. Remember to train right, train often, and train safe, as you can fight hard, fight fast, and fight true. Take care. For everyone who's been with us live here on Facebook and YouTube, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. There was somebody who Eat, Shoots, and Leaves Tactical asked me about the organizers, the Secure It, and those kind of solutions. Love those. Think they're great. Yep. All good. No problem with any of those solutions. All right, Matthew, I think we better give the nod and the wave away. We believe that Riley will be here at 4 p.m. Mountain Time, 2 hours from now, to record the other podcast today. For those who like to tune in, we think Riley will be back for that one.
Cool.
Thanks all. Take care.